What's up? And thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab podcast. I'm Jason Littrell, and I have two people whose vision for hospitality is reshaping how we think about dining in the South. Elise and John Russ are the owners and executive chefs of Clementine, the James Beard nominated restaurant in Castle Hills, San Antonio. It's become famous for far more than just excellent seasonal cuisine. They've pioneered something called the Feed Me experience that's creating buzz across the region. Elise, John, chefs, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So tell me about Clementine. Why does Clementine exist?
Clementine, well, long story short, Elise and I met in Maryland. She was the pastry chef and I was the savory sous chef. And when we started dating, we had kind of had the idea and the dream of opening our own place. And when we moved to San Antonio, we worked here for a little while and kind of enjoyed the city enough to buy a home and build a family and all the other things. And then the next logical conclusion was, instead of making money for other people, that we decided to make money for ourselves. Clementine came around essentially because this was turned into our dream. We had a really good banker that really kind of forced us to really visit and think about what our actual plan was and what we really wanted out of essentially the investment that the bank made. And it forced us to really consider the appropriate levels of funding and what we actually needed versus what we wanted. And so we end up with a space that we truly love, that we really belong to, that belongs to us, that Elise figured out how to pay off all of our debt like in the first 9 months of COVID.
What? Impossible.
But it really kind of forced us to dream big and
scale back
and figure out how to keep it small at the same time. One of our things that I always think about when we're running this place is that, a lot of the processes that we do, a lot of the organizational techniques that we have are built for companies that are 2, 3, 4, 500 people. A lot of the work that we do behind the scenes is these companies that are huge, or restaurant companies that are huge, or things that we do. But for us, we're 22 to 24 employees on average, and so it forces us to be who we are, and to do the work that we really enjoy and that we love and have come to, build for ourselves.
So where did you find this unicorn banker that wants to invest in restaurants?
People fund.
Yeah. So in San Antonio, we have what's called Lift Fund, which is a minority banking solution. They said, no thanks, we're not doing restaurants right now, but go talk to People Fund. I ran into the people at People Fund. They're based in South Texas, further south than us, but they were doing restaurants at the time. And because we're co-owned by a woman, somehow that makes us a minority business.
Good job,
and
chef.
They were willing, we take advantages when we can.
But they were great. Like John said, they really forced us to look at what we needed versus what we wanted and to make it a sustainable business.
Yeah, paying the bank back in 9 months that sounds like insanity, especially at one of the hardest times in the history of restaurants. What's your secret?
I put in extreme tactics on budgeting and what we could spend. It was a crazy time. We closed our doors and we were just doing to-go food at the time. And it was a game every day to make sure that we were hitting those numbers, or that we needed to do this number of people today in order for me to meet my goal and for us to be able to pay things. And we all worked very hard to make it happen.
It takes a type A personality to be a pastry chef.
Yes.
I mean, it's obsession with rules and precision, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it definitely translates. I do a lot of our bookkeeping, and so it translates there too.
Okay. So that got you through the first year, and then you opened up as a full service restaurant?
So we had been open for almost 2 years before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then we reopened. But the hardest thing for us has been, it's so hard to predict business now. Every year is a new year. You can't predict if you're going to have a busy or a slow season. Things kind of come out of nowhere. And that was the biggest struggle that we had faced in the past few years.
And kind of just learning how to pivot in COVID was, and still is, one of our biggest things that we really focus on. Because, this last December was obscene for us. We did numbers that we never expected to do. But if we were looking at historical records, we had no reason to consider that this December was going to be the same way it was. And so knowing that those things, there's no reason to believe that next December is going to do what we did last December. However, it's, whenever we see the business increasing or I guess trends changing in the dining world or whatever it is, we are consistently looking at our numbers. We're looking at our product mixes. We're looking at what our guests are ordering, what they're wearing also has a little bit to play in it as well. And so just trying to figure out how and what direction to go in. It's like quiet tinkering behind the background while it looks like you have a perfect product, but it's, you're just trying to make it better and better and better every single time.
What levers would you attribute the December's biggest numbers to?
Somehow we won the lottery, essentially. Chase Sapphire designated us as a restaurant to get a credit at. But it allowed us to meet a whole different demographic that are normally not our demographic. It allowed us to build relationships with people who had never been here before. Oh, that comment of like, oh, we live down the street, and how long have you been open? And you tell them 8 years. They kind of look at you like you're crazy, but it's like, sometimes just people get into their little world and then they forget that there are other new restaurants that they should try, that there are other places they should go to. And for us, it's, it's just getting the opportunity to build new relationships with people. And so that's why I consider it as, winning the lottery. It just gave us an opportunity to really kind of look at who our consistent guests were and chances to build new consistent guests.
So you hit the lottery, but you didn't have to buy a lottery ticket? That's awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. So they just came up and they started marketing for you to their customers?
We didn't even know about it. We found out about it through our guests who would tell us about the promotion we had. And then we looked more into it and found out we're not even really sure how we got on the list, but it was wonderful.
Well, through Open Table, Chase Sapphire has a reserve program that almost like how Resi has their American Express Platinum set up. Chase Sapphire is trying to do the same thing with Open Table. And it's all about data. It's all about building that revenue data for their cardholders. And because we're on the reserve program for San Antonio as Open Table clients, we were chosen out of, I think, 5 or 6 restaurants in San Antonio to be the one to pilot it for San Antonio in 2025. And it worked out really well for us. And I look forward to, seeing it hopefully again in other restaurants in the city, because it really does boost a lot of, the cash flow. But it also boosts opportunities to bring new customers into your restaurant that had never been there before. And they're just coming here for, like a fun time and they've heard fun things about it. But like bottom line, they're coming here for the $300 credit, right? But then we can turn that reason around into building lifelong customers.
Oh, wait. So they came in, they got to eat for free, basically?
Yeah, essentially.
Like this. So Chase issued them the credits if they use their card.
Yes.
That does not sound like a Chase thing to do. I'm a Chase customer, and they have never given me anything for free.
Right.
All right. If you have a Chase Sapphire card, look into it.
All right. Okay.
When you see those people that are like, I pay the $800 to have the Amex Platinum, look at all the rewards I get. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. But it sounds like Sapphire and Sapphire Reserve are really trying hard to go after those same demographics because I think they recognize that there's so much data built into the customer profiles when it comes down to spending habits.
Mm-hmm. And Open Table keeps track of that too, I'm sure.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what are the numbers that you really care about? I mean, let's just start with, I guess, marketing numbers. We all understand like the basic KPIs and like food cost and prime cost and all that stuff, but like what are the marketing things that you look at? I mean, you enjoy a sterling reputation on Google Maps, by the way, which has got to help.
One of the biggest things that we look forward to seeing is the return rate. There are customers that we've had for 8 years. Specifically, last Friday night before we closed down, we had a guest walk in, and I recognized her immediately. She was a guest we had pissed off really bad our first week. We couldn't fit her in for her reservation time. She was really upset. And over the last 8 years, I only see her like twice a year. And she's coming in for her birthday or her husband's birthday. And I make sure to stop by and say hi. We do our little thing with them, and life is good. But it's that return rate. If you can only visit us once a year because that's where your mental budget is or your financial budget is, then that's fantastic. As long as I'm getting you once a year. If you can be here once a week, I'm very much looking forward to seeing you here once a week. And we have a lot of guests that are in that 2 to 3 times a month club. And when we look at our return rates for new customers, we see them returning a little bit more than our average peers in San Antonio.
Okay. Do you guys do like tableside marketing where you're like, hey, we'd love if you left us a review, or we'd love to have you back. Like, here's a reason to come back. Do you guys do any of that kind of stuff?
We did a little bit. We started working with a new reputation management company. And so during the summer, we did try that out where we would offer up a $50 gift card. If you wrote a review, someone got selected each month. And it was fun. And we got
you're not supposed to say that out loud. It's against Google's terms of service. Whatever. I'm sure they're not a customer. I don't think that they're a listener of this podcast, but yeah. Well, did it work?
It was just about the same number of views we normally get.
Yeah.
Honestly, when it comes down to it, our staff, our frontline staff on the tables, they're not there to kind of, they see that as like shill work. That like they're not the barker at the carnival. They're not trying to, build like loyalty through like points and programs. They could care less about like a Google review, even though like for us, we know like that's a financial benefit. Our frontline staff they're about building those relationships, and I really enjoy, and we really push. A big part of that as part of our culture for our restaurant is building lifelong customers. And so they always see it as like, why are you trying to ask me to sell them like a t-shirt or a this or that? Because that's not who they are as servers. And we've come to recognize that it's, we can ask them to do this, but ultimately, like when it comes down to it, the servers really, their main focus is the lifelong customer.
Yeah. And creating that relationship at the table. And that's where we see the good reviews come from.
Yeah. No, that's organic is always going to win. How would you characterize the relationship with your staff?
They're great. We are so lucky to have such a good staff. We spend more time with them than our family. So we're lucky that we have a really good group of people, but we're constantly working on things. So we do direct communication exercises. The managers all read a book, and we kind of have a book club every week at the manager meeting, and we talk about it. So I think it's important to keep your staff challenged and interested. I think when everything just gets routine, that's where you really lose a lot of your edge. So we really try and work with them. John is really good about this. I'm not as good. I don't like change, but he does. And so he's always pushing us to, what's the newest thing? What's the best way to do something? What's the best way to organize this? And I think it keeps everybody interested and excited to come to work.
And it's not necessarily like following the trends or the fads, because like if you look at our food, it's not what it is, but it's how we can approach our guests, how after looking at the product mixes, after looking at, and here's a specific example, going out of January of 25 into the first quarter, we recognize that wine sales, and we know this because we see the industry data, that wine sales were down. But it hadn't really affected us until like dry January. And leaving dry January into like very moist February, we weren't hitting our numbers. And it was problematic because, that's part of our profit center. And when we recognized that, like pretty quickly, all right, let's take a look at our non-alcoholic options. Let's see if we can upgrade. Let's see how we can approach our guests in a different way. And, we started considering doing the CBD or the THC stuff. And we recognize that's not really our guest. While it'd be fun to offer it, and it's that those spaces are unique and interesting, our guest experience is too short for a lot of those products to really kind of take hold. And so we wouldn't want to leave people in a bad space. And so we revisited all of our non-alcoholic options, upgraded all those options, and
changed placement on the menu, changed wording.
Oh yeah. It's that whole product set it was important for us to regain and recapture that revenue, because instead of them just drinking iced tea or water or soda, we were able to get there was like an Amaro cocktail, there was the phony Negronis, there's all those like different cocktail sets that are actually pretty good. And for people who are trying to be healthy, that are looking for low sugar alternatives, they kind of fit into that space. And so you can be at a table of 6 or 8 or 10 people and drinking something that looks fun and not looking like a teetotaler or whatever.
Or
and
having
so
to explain yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And so folks, they wanted just to come and have a fun time and enjoy themselves. And so we turned that corner. And honestly, like a month ago, I was asking my front of the house manager if we need to revisit it again to kind of tone it back because wine sales have increased. And so should we then give more wine to the menu? And her answer was no. People love it. And we're going to try and figure out how to get more wines on the menu and still keep our non-alcoholic options.
Yeah, so not NA across the board from all everything I'm hearing from all my clients is that like it's the sales of NA are up generally speaking. Like it's not just a January thing. All right, so you had a gangbuster December, and then what happened in January?
Typical January.
Yeah.
Very
like crickets.
Not crickets. So every year we kind of sit down and discuss our year plan. And I think reasonably so, Elise really created this incredible calendar where we're doing something like every month. And there are some months where we're doing stuff every week. And
Events.
There are some
or occasions.
And not like where we're closing the restaurant to do a thing, but just, these 3 tables are going to be focused on this. Or outside on the patio, we're going to have a musician and we're going to shuck oysters and have some fun out there and just do something different just to bring folks in. And it really kind of builds that calendar up.
That is so forward thinking.
Yeah.
I know so many people who are just like, here's our menu. You're welcome. Here's the thing that we do. We expect you to come in and we expect you to enjoy it. It's going to be the same thing for the next quarter. You're welcome. But keeping it for like, why would somebody come into a place with, San Antonio? I remember San Antonio being like a really rich culinary town. Mm-hmm. And I did a guest shift there at the Brooklynite like many years ago. And I remember like having a really good time. I probably had a great time. The pictures looked awesome. But anyway, but yeah, it's like, why would people come in again and again and again unless you were offering something that was kind of limited time, like just something that's off menu, something that's like an experience that keeps it interesting for the guest and also for you, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's something that we've seen. People are definitely more experience driven. 2 summers ago, we had a horrible summer, and it was the election summer. And then we figured after the election it would get better, and it just didn't. And so that's when we started thinking, okay, what can we do to bring people in during the week? What can we do to keep people excited? What can we do to capture them more than just eating at our regular menu? So we started doing some things like Salon with John, where he would take a table of 12 and he would let them try new dishes he's working on and explain it to them. And we started out doing it one night, and now we have to definitely do it 2 nights whenever we decide to do it in the calendar, and there's always a waiting list. So it's just fun things like that we started doing so that we could create kind of a community feel and let people come in and try something different than our normal menu.
I'm going to send this to like all my clients. I'm excited to hear somebody else say this out loud. I'm like, guys, do events.
And I'll be honest with you, the Salons with John or we do these Magnum dinners where it's literally, one Magnum will feed 12 people for one course.
Just a table of 12.
And so we'll find 5 or 6 Magnums, write a menu around them, and just do one table of 12. And it's a blast for them because most folks don't have the audacity within themselves to like go pop a Magnum. And oddly enough, we do it way more often at home than we should, but it's fun to like drink the big bottles. And so those are a little thing that we do. And it is a lot more work for the chefs. It's a lot more work for the owners. It's a lot more work for the front of the house managers to find these things. But if you don't do these things, that table might go empty. And the revenue might not be there. For the Magnum dinners, for the Salons with John, the Salons with Elise, all these random things, we also set them at very different price points. So folks who might not feel like it's okay to come in and spend that $100 a person, they see the $65 or $75 a person. They say, okay, you know what, that's a little bit more realistic for Wednesday night. And so we're able to capture those folks as well.
Do you pair people up with strangers? Do you get people that don't know each other?
It's community style seating, which I think makes it really fun because, at the beginning of the night before anyone started drinking, it's very quiet. And then as the night goes on, it gets so much more fun. But we used to have a community table before COVID. And because of COVID, we had to get rid of it and replace it with 2 6 tops. So now we push the 6 tops together and we have this big 12 top for these special dinners. And I just think it really encourages the neighborhood aspect of our restaurant. And it's fun to enjoy new food with different people, I think.
Sounds like you've developed really deep relationships with the people in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's certainly with intention.
Tell me about Feed Me.
So I grew up in New Orleans. There's a restaurant that I worked at when I was in high school called Tony Angelo's. Tony Angelo's was a classic American Italian or New Orleans Italian restaurant. Tony was like a solid 4'6". After he fought in the war, he came to New Orleans or back home to New Orleans and opened a restaurant with his family. And it turned into this whole thing. You know, you could see menus on the wall from like the 60s, and it's one page. And then the 70s, it's like 2 pages. By the time I'm working there in like the mid 90s, it's like 7 pages long. And it's like every Italian thing that you could want. You know, the dessert was like 2 pages. It was just insane. But at some point in the 70s or 80s, they had realized that, hey, Tony, just feed me. I don't care. Send it out. And I'll let you know when I'm done. And it's all family style. You don't get anything by yourself unless you go by yourself. It's just kind of shared. And I'll be honest, as a fat kid growing up in New Orleans, that was like the best perk of working ever, because you could see all the fun things on the menu. And so whenever we went there as, you know, family or friends, or, you know, whenever we had off and we had an opportunity to go ourselves, it was like, let's go to Tony's, let's get the Feed Me, let's do the thing. And, you know, you'd walk out stuffed, like so stuffed it wasn't funny. And so I always said, you know, whenever I get my own restaurant, I kind of want to do that because I want to give it a shot. Let's see how it works in a nicer environment and a little bit more styled spaces where you can actually use the Feed Me to try new products, to try new ingredients, to try new techniques, to play with, I don't know, things that are very limited. There are times when our farmer has like 5 pounds of something. And it's like, what are you going to do with 5 pounds? You can't put it on the menu. You really can't even do a special with it. But I can do 5 pounds over, you know, 12 or 14 dishes. And, you know, on a slower night, that'll cover the amount of Feed Me's that I have.
So it's always on offer.
Oh, yeah.
You can walk in 7 days a week and get a Feed Me.
5 days a week, yes.
5 days a week. Sorry,
every night. Yeah.
Are you both typically on the line each night?
John tries to be here every night. I only work Saturday night. That's our date night. I expo and he garnishes. But we have 3 little kids, so I'm usually home with them during the week.
My God, how do you do more than one? I have a 7-year-old, and it's like plenty. One at a time is plenty. Is there an economy of scale?
It's easier the more you have. Then they play with each other.
Oh my God!
My older sister has 3 kids as well, and her comment to me, and I didn't understand it at the time because we had just had 1 kid. She said, "You know, when you have 1, you have none. Once you have 2, you're screwed. Might as well have as much as you want." It's never been more true because they're a blast when they get together. You know, like when it's hectic and it's crazy, it's going to be hectic and crazy with 1 or 3 or 7 or whatever. So might as well just enjoy, you know, like Elise tells me all the time, enjoy the wow that's happening now.
That's Daniel talking, not me.
Yeah, you're the one.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like if you have your existing static menu and then you also have Feed Me. That's a lot of variables. That's a lot of stuff to control. Like, I mean, how do you manage the tickets coming in if it's like with that? I mean, do you have like 1,000 items, 1,000 pieces of me's every day?
Well, I think the nice thing about the Feed Me that we didn't anticipate when we put on the menu is if there's a dish on the menu that's not selling very well, we'll put it on the Feed Me. So we're not wasting the prep. We're getting that dish out for people to try. Maybe there's something about the wording that doesn't appeal to people, but when they get it at the table, they love it. And then they'll come back and order it. And the other thing is too, you know, cross-utilizing product. We have a very small space, very small kitchen. So we can't have a ton of stuff. Honestly, it's really helped us with our food costs in a way that we had not realized it would.
You know, and a big part of it is it's an opportunity to get to try new dishes, to see, you know, how the verbiage is going to work, what it's actually going to look like on a plate once you kind of get it going, what the servers are going to feel about it. Because, you know, like, you know, as creators, you know, you kind of do something in the back and you put it out there in the ether and it's either picked up or it's not. Yeah, but with the Feed Me, if it's something that we really want to put on the menu, we just got to work out the kinks. This gives us an opportunity to get in front of guests and, you know, we'll make some changes here and there, but then we kind of have an opportunity to refine it without, you know, doing it behind the scenes. We have real people touching it, real people tasting it, real people giving us feedback on it. Specifically, one of the things that most people would never order it unless you're told, hey, when you go to Clementine, you need to get it. It's our mushroom salad. It's shaved button mushrooms. It's pecorino cheese that's shaved over the top, fresh pomegranates, fresh parsley, fresh lemon juice, some olive oil, some radishes, red onions, salt and pepper. It's very, very simple, right? It's kind of like a salad that my parents made for us when we were kids. When we had it on the menu right when we opened, nobody ordered it. They were like, no, looks awful. The sound's awful. And so I said, fuck it. I'm just going to put it on the feed me literally until like people start to order it because I know it's good. You know, empirically, it's one of those things, texturally, flavorful. It hits the umami button all the way. And after the first month, I don't really need to have it on the feed me. I like to have it on the feed me because it tastes good. And I like to show people that they can broaden their horizons. It's also a great, like, okay, let's clear your idea set of what you're walking into.
But it definitely became a signature dish at our restaurant because it was on the feed me and people tried it then and loved it.
And they come back and they order it. We have people who, when they get order the feed me, they say, I want the mushroom salad. And that to me is magic.
So, okay. So help me understand this. So is it coursed out? And it's just like when they tap out, they say, I give up, no more food?
Essentially, yes, without them knowing it, though. It's about 7 courses. We start with a cold appetizer and then a warm appetizer and then a vegetable and then a starch and then a protein. And then we go to a pre-dessert and then a dessert and then a menu d'ease. But all the way through, we have an open kitchen where our cooks can kind of see like, oh, table 5 is going real fast or table 4 is like not touching their whatever. And so, and our staff on the front line also can say, hey, they're moving really fast. We might want to throw another course on. All right, let's keep an eye on it. Let's check. And so if people want another course, we'll throw another course. But for me, the idea of a feed me, and I came from a restaurant group where if you came in as someone who works in the industry and someone in the kitchen or the staff knew, the idea of the restaurant, that whole group was they would just say, kill them. And so they would put as much food on that table, as much wine, as much cocktails on that table as they could to make it was like food was like their love. And I can't tell you how many times I walked out of those restaurants feeling like, I don't even want to go to bed. I feel sick because I felt bad for eating all that. And people have lives after they leave the restaurant. I want them to go home and enjoy themselves or go to the movie or go take a walk or whatever it is. And so we want people to feel satiated, but not like stuffed.
Yeah. That's crazy. That sounds like a lot of very rapid open communication, oftentimes nonverbal, right? Because I mean, if your chefs on the line are watching the floor and being like, okay, well, it's time to fire course 5, that's a lot of mindfulness that typically that kind of bandwidth typically gets reserved for what is immediately urgent in front of you. Do you use like a KDS or something like that to manage all these tickets?
No,
Nope.
Either iExpo or John does or our sous chef.
And it's verbal,
it's
a lot of verbal.
All verbal, yeah. Which is hard for some people to transition over into that system, but there's just no place to put tickets. So
It's got to be fun to watch, though, as the guest, though. They're watching this happen. They're like, okay, this is like 100% hands-on. Like, there's no room for disengagement. There's no room for texting in the middle of your shift. Like, you're just like, you're like completely tuned in and dialed into your tables. I love that.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have a kitchen bar that overlooks the kitchen. And when we first put it in, people were a little weirded out by it. And now it's like the most requested thing because it's just fun to watch the show.
What does a feed me cost, if you don't mind me asking?
$88 a person. It is a steal.
And it comes that's with wine?
No, there's additional.
I had a heart attack there for a second.
Yeah. In the protein that goes on the menu on the feed me, it's not just at the entree set. There's usually protein in 2 or 3 other places because we've recognized that folks want to have more protein in their diet. They've asked for it, and so we make sure to meet them on it. However, when we have vegans come in, they want to do the feed me. Perfectly fine. Let's do it. Let's make this work. Gluten-free, alien allergies, this allergy, that allergy. It gives us a challenge in the kitchen. It gives us a challenge on the floor. But the hospitality set of it is that we should be taking care of our guests.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if this were my place, I'd be like, first of all, let's check out the economics of this $88 offer. But you seem to, you like, it sounds like you got it dialed in. But also, like, I'd be like, no substitution. Sorry, like, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how it's gonna be tonight. Sorry, vegans.
There are a lot of nights where that is what I want to say. However, when I get frustrated, it's usually like the cook is like, "Hey, wait, no, but we can do this," and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks, thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Devin. Thanks for like interjecting with the right answer instead of me just saying no." Poor Schulte, one of the people I really look up to, said no is the easiest and the laziest thing you can ever do. Don't bother.
Or like Danny Meyer,
say yes.
or I forget who said it. Maybe it was Danny Meyer who said, "Yes is the answer. What is the question?"
Yes. Yeah.
I like that.
That sounds like a lot of work. Do you ever get burned out?
We have 2 set weeks off each year. We close around 4th of July for a week, and then we close the first week of January. And I think that's really helpful, especially the January one, because by the time December and the holiday season's over, I think we all don't want to see each other for a while. But
then you married once.
I know, right? I don't know. What was I thinking? It's part of our core beliefs as a company, is, and we have it in our handbook, is to take time for rest and recharge and research, and to make sure that we're trying new things and our managers can go out to eat and use their company card so they can get inspired by different chefs and get new ideas. And so I think when people start to get burned out, or we start to get burned out, kind of taking that step back, and we are lucky because we have a staff that has our back. So our sous chef, when John's just really feeling over it with coming up with things, he's amazing, and he can step in and kind of complete the dish or come up with new things. And so I think it's the strength of our team that keeps us from absolutely losing our minds.
On the other side, it's, we look at our staff as not just people we pay to be here, but, people that are our team members, that are teammates. As owners, as chefs, as managers, the most valuable player is not Elise or myself. It's everyone that works here. And every day that MVP kind of changes a little bit, but I think we're the least of what we do. And having that humility is so important to recognize and to remember as chefs, because, like having an A-type personality over here and being a James Beard nominated chef, like it can get to your head, right? But in reality, when you got diapers to change, you got plumbing to fix, and, someone wants to be gluten-free on a night where you're not having it, it's remembering that hospitality is why we're here is really the best part about what we do.
I think that's the perfect way to end the show. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
Thank you so much for having us. It was great to talk to you.
I appreciate it.
No problem. This has been honestly really refreshing. Like I implement AI and automation technology solutions for bars or restaurants, but at the end of the day, what you guys are talking about is the real and most relevant predictor and indicator of success. Is just like giving a shit, just like treating people right, being creative, giving people a reason to come back, and being nice to people.
It's shocking how that human interaction and how far it goes. It's remembering that. So thank you for saying that.
Of course. All right. Thank you both so much for sharing all the stuff about Clementine and San Antonio. I cannot wait to go there and get fat. I'm excited. So this is exactly what the hospitality industry needs. So people that are innovating and are willing to reimagine the experience, like the Feed Me. Listeners, if you love this episode, please share it with other restaurant owners, chefs, and hospitality professionals. Subscribe to the Hospitality Strategy Lab podcast wherever you listen. And if you're struggling with the slow season, take these insights and start experimenting. So you might just create the next trend, like the Feed Me experience. Thank you, chefs John and Elise. Russ from Clementine and San Antonio. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
You. Have a great day.
All right, y'all. See you later.
Have a great day.